And all right, welcome Tina Austin to the Opposite of Cheating podcast. How are you?
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm great. Nice to be here. How about
I
yourself?
know you're super busy. I think you're traveling in like an hour or so. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to step in and talk to me. We've got I think a juicy topic to talk about today, but I want to start for those few people who might be watching this podcast and don't know who you are. Give them a little context. What do you do, and in what context do you do it?
Thank you. So I've been a lecturer for a long time. I'm also an AI strategist. I've taught bioethics and ethics before AI, Gen AI became into the scene. I also teach computational biology and critical thinking with AI. And nowadays, I just help faculty and students understand what they're working with in today's digital age. And really, the goal is to empower them to look at it responsibly.
So okay, so you were teaching bioethics, so you were already, thinking about how to do things ethically. So how did you get into the AI side of things? I know, it came into all of our lives without us asking for it, but is it just because it came along and you were teaching at the time and you had to figure it out?
Well, partially. I was also teaching at Caltech in the engineering department, and I was also working with AI folks, and I was teaching students how to do STEM students how to incorporate new technology into
Ah.
their work. And we were talking, it was the same week that ChatGPT came out. And so I was excited, like most people, but I immediately started like working outside class on it and seeing, well,
Okay.
what mistakes does it make? And that's how I got involved.
Got it. Okay, so it was kind of similar to the way the rest of us got involved, other than you were already kind of involved with digital tools and how to incorporate them. Okay. So, as you know, the opposite of cheating is learning, but obviously it's about academic integrity as well, learning with integrity. So, what is your first memory of encountering academic integrity? It could have been as a student or as a lecturer.
Yeah, I'll go back to when I was a grad student in the
Hmm.
UK. I met a fellow student working overtime who uh, he was working overtime at grocery stores and lots of places to make ends meet, and he was offering classmates to write theses for them so he could pay his bills.
What? What year
Yeah.
was this?
This was 2000, I want to say like mid 2000 something. Yeah. Yeah, late.
So the term contract cheating was coined by two Brits in 2006. Thomas Lancaster and I'm embarrassingly blanking on the other one. So was it around that time,
It
2006?
was actually around 2006, 2007. Yeah, that was the time. I
Wow.
was shocked.
So
I
you
was,
knew a contract cheating provider.
mhm. Of course, I didn't know what to do as a fellow student. I thought, well, this is interesting, but I mean, if he needs to pay his bills and he's asking his classmates, "Hey, can I help you?" and I'll write it for you. So
And do you know, so you were an undergrad
I was a
or
grad
a
student. I
grad
was doing my
student?
first master's, and it was it was really shocking for me to see that. But I was also waiting for, I guess, the PI to tell to say, why do these all look the same or something?
Right, right. And so, oh, so he was talking to other people like that worked in the same lab?
Yeah, in the same lab. He really was trying to make money any way he could. And I felt for him because,
Wow.
he was coming from, a third world, I mean, trying to, we're
Yeah.
all, international students. And it was like, hey, I'll write it for you. And I really didn't, he really wanted to write it for all of us. So
Wow. And so what did you say or do?
obviously I didn't feel
No.
comfortable
Yeah.
any for several reasons, but I thought that, I mean, English wasn't his first language either. So I thought that this would be flagged by the university. I'm ashamed to say I didn't do anything in terms of like reporting it or
Mm,
anything. I just, you know, I felt that if I'd said something at the time, it could, cause him to lose a student
ruin.
visa or something. you
How
know.
many times I've had a faculty member tell me, I don't want to ruin the student's career. Yeah. And I get it. And to me, that's always a signal that the institutional policy and procedures are bad. Because no one should lose their career over uh, a one-time, error in judgment if it is a one-time thing. I think everybody deserves a second chance, and especially a student in an educational institution that deserves to learn from it. I start to get a little, less gray about it when it comes to contract cheating. That one really, you know, hits me a bit differently, I would say, than some of the other types. Wow. So I knew this was going to be a juicy conversation, but I had no idea it was going to start.
No. Yeah, and he went on to do his PhD in the Netherlands, and then he said he wanted to go back to India and start something. And
All
that's the last time
right.
I heard from him. He didn't get caught any other place, and
Okay. Well, let's I so want to know who it is and see what's going on with him. But so okay. So that was your first encounter, and then now you've been teaching then for how long you've been teaching?
well, I've been teaching for well over a decade, almost
Yeah.
15 something years. I stopped counting, but at UCLA, it's been like just over 5 years.
Okay.
And I think I've only had one incident where a student came to me and said, I think my classmate wrote this off of me. And I looked at both documents, and I couldn't see anything immediate, but it was one person's word against another person.
Yeah.
So
Hard to do much in those
uh,
circumstances if there's no
other
evidence.
than offer them to like rewrite it,
Right.
and yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you've been spending a lot of time in the other AI, the artificial intelligence world. Man, okay, so it's been full of controversy. Here's my take, right? These companies release these products that we didn't ask for, and then they intentionally entangled students into being their majority users. And then they said to us as educators, well, it's here, so you've got to deal with it, right? And so we were all left scrambling to try and figure out what the heck that meant. And of course, it means something different in a writing course where you're trying to teach students writing versus maybe in an accounting course versus maybe in a bio stats course, right?
Mhm.
Along that conversation came the topic of, at the very least, we need to teach students what it is, how to use it, how it works. And people started calling that AI literacy. There's even
Yeah.
a debate about whether AI literacy can exist, and some people are calling it AI fluency.
Mhm.
I think some people are calling it critical AI literacy. So even within that sphere of should we teach students about it? Should every instructor have to teach students about it? And if we are teaching about it, what do we call it? I'm not sure that's our biggest problem. And then once we call it something like what's in that. So what say you in your experience? Is critical or is AI literacy a thing? And then if it is, what does that look like and why is it important? We'll just start there.
Oh my gosh, so many easy
Yeah,
questions, right, Trisha?
I know. All the easy ones.
All the easy ones. So, can I just answer the easiest one? That
Yes.
is, should everyone be teaching it? And I think no, obviously, I don't think everyone is qualified or has the time to keep up with this or be able to, teach this in their classroom. It's The answer to that is no. What it is, there's a debate, as you mentioned.
Hmm.
I think it's important to know the nuance, and it's different, like you mentioned, in different topics,
Yeah.
for like digital media, financial literacy, learning about how to critically use the tools is what I try to do. And I guess for me, it's more about AI safety, AI
Mm.
101 safety
Okay.
it's like getting into a car. Before you start the car, you need to know where the brakes are, and you need to
It's
know,
usually a good thing.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it. This is
Well,
like, no matter what you call it, fluency,
yeah.
literacy, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen on LinkedIn, I've done surveys just to get a sense of what the crowd like to
Yeah.
think, and I think at least sample size, I don't know if it's probably not big enough, but within the people, amongst the people that looked at those posts, great majority agreed that we do probably need some sort of precursor or some sort of,
Mm,
AI safety 101, which is what I
yeah.
like to call it,
Yeah.
before before diving into, you know, push some buttons. Because what it's not, I'll tell you what it's not, is it's not pushing some buttons and making things work.
Right, right.
Right? Or like we saw with some tech companies, as you mentioned, they're all trying to, it- put it in everything. And what is the marketing strategy? To save time, right? And none of us, as you know, it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
It's not like we're really even saving time to begin with. Like I don't stop checking my emails at 5 o'clock. I
Right.
still work with
Oh,
students.
but wait, the AI agents will solve that for you, Tina. They'll do all of that for you. And they'll push the buttons, right? They'll push the
And
buttons.
they'll push the buttons for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother, the whole AI agent release is a whole nother story
Yeah.
that I think is gonna age well, and I don't want to get to that
Yeah.
one either.
But it's related, right? Because people say, so I feel like we have camps, right? We have people saying like everybody should have to be able to, everybody should be able to, every educator should be able to teach AI literacy to their students. And you've already made it clear, no, I don't think that's true. And why would that be true? We don't all teach digital literacy. We don't all teach, everything, right? So I think that's right. So we get the camp that says everybody's got to teach it, everybody's got to know how to use it. And if you're, and even some despairing comments to people like, oh, if you don't use it and you don't know how to teach it, then you're just, you might as well quit at your job kind of thing. Like really extreme stuff, in my opinion. And then we've got the folks that um, really say like this is the only thing we should be teaching
Oh
students,
my
right?
gosh.
Like, and
Just
to
quit
me,
everything else.
yeah, I mean, to me, to your point about it's about safety, like we're not going to just let somebody drive a car without teaching them how it works. Isn't it all really just about critical thinking, about not just blindly using a tool without thinking about it? Like digital
Absolutely.
literacy, information literacy, AI literacy, isn't it all just critical thinking?
I think so too. I think, yeah, critical thinking, because a lot of people, I think they're also confused about what critical thinking is, which that's a whole
True. Good
another
point.
podcast. But to really think about what you're there to learn, what is this tool actually doing? How does this tool work? And that's not saying you need to be a data scientist to
No.
know the math or about weights or anything like that. It's just really understanding how, for example, these large language models predict the next word, and that may not, or for example, why AI, the goal, we talk about in my classes is not really truth. It's about, engagement and making sure. And that's why we see AI sycophancy and all those
Yep.
other problems. So once faculty and students realize that, they're less likely to use AI as a therapist. They're less
Mm,
likely to use AI as the magical,
authoritative.
yeah, authoritative, or, especially with a lot of students that, I've seen even as a student myself, that they're not confident enough in their own answers, and they feel, okay, well, this is going to give me the confident answer.
Yeah.
Because it's confident, it must be true, is another
Right.
fallacy. So
Yeah. Yeah. So if not every professor needs to be teaching this, then how do we do it? Obviously, I think every university should be teaching it. Every college should be teaching it. So how do we do it?
that's a good question. I'm actually, I didn't introduce like all of the work I did
Yeah.
earlier. I introduced myself. I've been doing faculty workshops for CSU, for USC, for UCLA, and right now. I'm seeing more of the need, without, disclosing too much about
Yeah.
what plans are down the line. Definitely seeing the need for those conversations on campus. And I'm also seeing that now at community colleges that I'm in contact
Yeah.
with in LA. And
Hmm.
there's definitely um, talk about precursor courses that I just mentioned to you, courses that are
Mm.
catered towards faculty, courses that are catered towards students. But we have a universal system that it's going to be like a class that everybody's required to take in their first year yet. Not yet, but who knows?
But you think we should?
I think I think so because as you saw with the viral story of the student who was holding up their laptop on graduation day, bragging
Right.
about using it,
Thanks, ChatGPT.
thanking ChatGPT is completely the wrong message, and it is
Well, so remember though, back in the day, there were pictures of somebody with their, what do we call that, a mortar board, the graduation cap, that said like thanks to Chegg or whatever, or thanks to Course Hero. So that's, that. So the newest one is just thanks to ChatGPT, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think, as you know, that's not going to solve all problems with when it comes to cheating or it's not going to be. Is that precursor course going to solve all problems? No, but I think it will at least once it will, I think, lead to less confusion in when it comes to academic integrity with
Yeah.
AI. And I was talking to someone who worked at a tech company the other day, and they said they surveyed both educators and students and leaders. I don't know what they were referring to by leaders, but they said that all of them named academic integrity as their number one concern when it comes to AI. And she told me that if all three groups agreed on one thing, that would have been the number one thing that they all seem to agree on.
I mean,
So, yeah.
I'm personally happy about that. So I know a lot of people I follow on LinkedIn are saying things like, it's not about the cheating. We have to move beyond that. It's
Mhm.
fun. It's so look, you know me, I'm a both and person, right?
Mhm.
And so if we're only talking about cheating, that's a problem. But
Mhm.
if we're saying it's beyond cheating and we don't have to talk about it at all, that's insane, right?
Yeah,
Because we're in the business of certifying learning. And we have to, for far too long, the universities and colleges have ignored I say it's a dereliction of duty. We've ignored the importance of the integrity of our degrees, and we've just assumed that it's happening. And so I'm all for if it's AI that's going to finally wake people up to the importance of degree integrity, then I'm all for it. And yes, I want people to reframe it as I would reframe it of when we're concerned about academic integrity, it's because we're concerned about learning, facilitating learning, and certifying learning. Not because we care about like because people get caught up in like, I don't want to catch cheaters. I'm not in the business of catching cheaters. But you're in the business of certifying and validating learning. And so you have to pay attention to cheating. It's just so the semantics. I just find people get so caught up, just like with the AI literacy, they get so caught up in the semantics and it makes them uncomfortable to talk about cheating. So they just want to move on.
absolutely. Then that's another thing I bring up in both my classes and workshops with faculty is, so how can we redesign assessments or how can we like,
Hmm.
change traditional ways of thinking. And
Yeah.
one of them, a good one that I think is a good one, is like, for example, I've seen is that AI can't really evaluate AI very well. And so bring in assignments that students who would use AI would not be able to do so well in. And
Mm.
and we've tested that. I've tested that for like
Hmm.
several years now. And and this really opens up the conversation in the classroom. And students
Yeah.
are saying, "Oh yeah, this was so interesting. AI was so dumb. They didn't get this." Like, yes, thank you. I want you to feel that.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree that I think every incoming student should be have to do something in terms of learning AI literacy. We have here an integrity tutorial required of all incoming students. We're under no illusion that stops students from cheating. But again, it's more of like it's our professional and ethical obligation to make sure we tell students about this. Whether they listen and whether they comply with it is a whole different subject matter. But if we're just like saying, well, it's not going to change their behavior, so why bother telling them about it? That's not a solution either. So yes, saying to students, y'all need to know this, and maybe we won't have to do it for all incoming students in 5 years or 10 years from now because they'll come to us already AI literate. we don't know, but it doesn't take much to put something together that all new students have to take.
I agree. I agree. You know what? I just remembered another example because I used to work in a lab as a bio person. And
Hmm.
number one thing, you could not even start working in a lab. You could not pick up a pipette or do any tests with chemicals or biological
Yeah.
material before you came
Safety.
and did the training. You got
Yep.
signed off on it. You demonstrated. You know how to wear a lab coat. You know how to put goggles on.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
required. Like you could not be a science, my undergrad was in microbiology and
Right.
biomedical research, and you could not just start day one without that safety
Yeah. Yeah.
course.
No, and I know people complain about mandatory trainings and, some of them aren't that great. And I get that.
Mhm.
And yet we can't just ignore that people need to know this. If you think about that, you mentioned CSU, you think about the CSU system who contracted with OpenAI to give everybody ChatGPT EDU. You can't just give students these tools, but not teach them how to use them properly, right?
No, and I'm in talks with CSU as well because I know they're also very eager to not just scale. I mean, scaling is one thing right now with all the budget
Yeah.
cuts everywhere, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But I know they're interested in ethics as well. It's
Yeah, of
just,
course.
yeah.
So what do you think? So we said earlier, like, isn't AI literacy critical, just critical thinking, right?
Mhm.
So one other thing that we've been very, I think, bad at as colleges, as a higher education system, is teaching students ethical thinking, right? Ethical reasoning, and you teach bioethics.
Mhm.
So I have been saying for a long time and have written about ethics across the curriculum. We shouldn't be leaving this to the philosophy departments, that we should all first year students should get the same kind of basic ethical reasoning introduction. Maybe it's a common ethical decision making framework that we teach everybody. And then in the biomedical class, they say, okay, let's take that framework and apply it to this kind of situation. And in accounting class, they say, let's take that same framework and apply it to this situation. And if we did that more ethics across the curriculum, then that would easily fold into, and this is what, this is how you use it for AI because the steps are the same, right? It's the ethical reasoning steps, and we could argue whether steps actually produce ethical actions, but everybody's got their different framework, but they're kind of all the same. And so that's just teaching people how to think through. And now that AI can do a lot of our jobs for us, ethical reasoning is one of the few remaining human durable skills that might be expected of our graduates. What say you?
I agree. I think that it is, those are the few skills that really differentiate these graduates from someone who just typed up everything and put it onto an AI chatbot
Yeah.
and answered it. And because reasoning, I mean, in my ethics class, we actually have like debates with the students. And it's never, oh, we agree with this side or we don't agree with this side. It's about them being also able to articulate why they support a certain view and what
Mhm.
would someone with this school of thought do, what would someone with this school of thought do, and a lot of it, they really enjoy these debates. Students
Yeah,
really, you know
I
they feel,
do.
if they tell me they feel alive with those, is, it's nothing like a, memorization or go write an essay and come back.
Yeah.
you know
No, I know. I mean, I've taught a course here, personal ethics at work. And then with our after education for students who have had an integrity violation, we teach them ethical decision making. And we have them in both my class and in the after education we do here. They talk about real ethical dilemmas that they're currently facing, not hypotheticals. We're not talking about Enron and about, the Pinto accident of what, 1972. But like today, you are facing ethical dilemmas right now today. And they, like you said, they kind of feel alive. And I really feel like this generation of students coming out of the pandemic is hungers for this human to human interaction. And I think if we show them and they get to experience more of that value, maybe they'll turn to AI less to begin with, right? Because one of the big worries is they'll become AI dependent, not just for their thinking, but like you said, hinted at earlier, their social relationships or their
Totally agree.
therapists.
Absolutely. And can I just go back to what one thing you just said about real
Yeah.
examples? Because real examples, like, when I brought in Google Notebook LM to the classroom for them to like see
Mm,
how it's failing at, for example, not just an argument, how the, for example, male was constantly cutting off the female when it was talking, how
mm.
all of these students actually
Oh, like
point
you did a
out.
podcast?
Yeah, I actually did
Oh,
a Google AI. This was like a year
yeah.
ago when Notebook
Yeah.
LM came out, and I had it was an assignment for the students to look at all the problems this AI is making, and they found a ton of amazing things. Like
Oh,
these are
wow.
the students who pointed out, look, this is what this character is doing. This is what like this other character is doing. Look how it deviates from the conversation. Look how the argument is
Mm,
kind of flawed. And then also another real example, in bioethics class and before AI, we were critiquing rogue clinics, all these rogue clinics all over LA about, stem
yeah.
cell injections. And then you asked me how did that all turn into AI? Then I brought AI into that class. And then we were like, oh, look at these rogue tech companies too as well that are doing this. So
Yeah.
it kind of all aligned because I was still in contact with those former students. We still meet once a month to talk about the cross section of AI,
Mm,
biomedical ethics,
mm.
and their journey as they like go on to a world where now they see the bigger picture that it's not just these clinics that are trying to make a quick buck, but also, tech companies. So I love it. Can I just say, I
Yeah.
just love being part of
Yeah.
these debates.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So one thing we were thinking about doing with our after education is, because we have students identify an ethical dilemma they're currently facing, and they think through like what are all the possible options for acting and who would be impacted by those actions and blah 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 blah, and then they talk about it with their peers. And we're thinking, oh, we could also have them come to that peer discussion with this is what I think and this is what AI thinks, or to brainstorm, to include AI as one of the peers. What do you think about that?
AI as a peer.
As a part, yeah, part of that peer discussion of like,
Well, so this is my issue with calling it a peer or when what was it Google
mm,
called it a co-scientist. It kind of
yeah,
anthropomorphizes the AI in a
yeah,
way in their minds, in the students' mind is like, oh, this cute little like peer of mine
yeah,
or co-scientist, when it's just really
mm,
like we know large language models,
yeah,
predicting things. And I had a whole lecture series for a different group last year on the issues with anthropomorphizing AI and how AI
yeah.
companions come from all that, we saw with Grok coming out. And
Hmm.
that's a whole separate discussion. I wouldn't call it a peer. I would be open to saying, here's this AI as a I don't know, I don't even want to call it a tool. I don't like to call AI a tool either because of all the politics involved with
I call it a tool.
call it a
Um,
tool.
well, if we used it as a tool, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's true. We could use it because it's not one thing, right? It's
right.
sometimes it's a tool, sometimes it's yeah,
Way more invasive than a
way
tool.
more, yes, way more than that.
Well, yeah, we could do probably like 10 episodes talking about AI, but we'll keep this focused on learning and, and
Yeah,
integrity. So, um, we kind of touched upon this, but that's a good, sorry, let me finish. That's a good point about, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it a peer, but basically I wanted to suggest to students, and we're going to play with like a tutor, an AI tutor that's specifically crafted for our class. But basically, I wanted to convey to students like, look, I think it's more valuable for you to talk to other humans about this.
Mhm.
However, if it's midnight and there's no one else you talk to, and it can be a good sounding board. It can be a good
Correct.
way to like free up your thinking about something and make you think beyond your narrow viewpoint at that moment when you're panicking about something. It could also totally lead you astray to do something crazy, as we've been seeing with like Grok recently,
Yeah.
right? So keep in mind which tool you're using as well. Um, Maybe we want to kind of get to a closing on this by, so there's the debate about literacies we've talked about. We've already been clear that not everybody has to teach AI, but I am going to ask you, should people be resisting? Should educators resist AI? Is there a place for those? There's a lot of writing folks who say, nope, it's not coming into my writing classroom. So it's a difference between saying someone shouldn't teach AI literacy
Mhm.
versus saying, I guess my question is, does AI need to be incorporated into every single class?
No, that's a good question. And I agree that, I was one of the people who actually fought for union workers to, for the right to refuse, for the right,
Mm,
because of workload, faculty are already facing a lot, and especially some lecturers.
yes.
I agree they
We
don't
don't
need,
give them time, training, and support to learn how to use it
right,
or redesign their
professional
courses.
development, right? So
No.
I'm all for, hey, if this is how you've always done things and you want to have the right to refuse, and I
And you
think,
can secure the assessment.
and you can secure, that's the
Yeah.
important thing. That was what I was
Yeah.
going to say. And you can secure the assessment in a way that you feel is secure. I don't,
Yeah.
can't police people. Then I guess that's fair. But should they? I think your second part of your question was should they or
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so I think education is changing, as traditional ways are being challenged more and more
Yeah.
every day. I think
As they should.
as they should, students come to different classes, they see different approaches, different
Mhm.
instructors, and if one says, "Hey, I can't talk about it and I'm not gonna like say anything about it," then what else can anyone really do?
Mm.
But ultimately, I think back to your main question, which was, should everyone teach it? No.
Should everyone incorporate it in? Should everyone allow? Because you hear people say, well, if you're not allowing Gen AI, then you're just you might as well not be here. Like, do the, I is there's a resistance from teaching it, but there's also resistance to integrating it in, and then there's a resistance to allowing students to use it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there can
And
be
I
different
think
forms of resistance.
I think that last one could be potentially problematic for the students who graduate into a world and try and, get hired at a company who requires them now to use Gen AI, and they've
Mhm.
been in a system that actually didn't know or didn't want them
The
or
whole system, but
yeah.
if it's like a third of the faculty that aren't doing it, the student's going to survive. Like, you could say that employers want students to have written communication skills, but not everybody teaches that. And we're okay with that, right? So I guess my argument back would be like, but everybody doesn't teach the current other skills that employers want, whether it's written communication or oral communication or interpersonal or group work or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Ethics.
interpersonal skills. Yeah, nobody teaches like those interpersonal
So
skills.
why would we say everybody has to teach AI literacy or teach AI or teach with AI?
Absolutely not. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really expect them, and we can't
No.
make anyone do anything. It's just the other argument that I hear is that when, the student goes to get hired at company X and they say, "Oh, it's like email, like you don't know how to use email, you shouldn't be like here." And that becomes more and more relevant as AI progresses and it's incorporated
Yeah.
in everything. You see Copilot has it, Microsoft Word
Yeah.
has it,
But we also know that a lot of what we know now, we learned on the job. We did not learn in school, right?
True.
My argument would be more like, well, school, especially now, should be teaching people how to be human and how to learn. And how to learn is partly being human, although we've seen machines theoretically can learn. And so because we know that the world's going to change so fast that, yeah, I might need to know how to use Copilot now, but Copilot might not be a thing in 6 months, let alone a year, or it just might be totally different, right?
And
So,
that's exactly the precursor course I was talking about. So
yeah.
one part of it would be AI safety. The other part would be the like complete just basics of how LLMs work, or how,
Yeah.
Gen AI works, and how
Yeah.
it's different from predictive AI. Because I've also seen the same people knocking down scientific use of AI, like
You're
predictive AI
right.
and like AlphaFold, and which is
Right.
another thing I teach, and they're like, well, no, AlphaFold, there's a couple of outliers that say AlphaFold is also bad. And it's like, no, AlphaFold's actually really
Yeah.
helpful for scientists. But when some people are trying to, turn the argument,
Mm,
look for a couple of outliers that, you know, and
yeah.
so
Okay. So
yeah.
Final advice. We've covered a lot. Okay, so we've covered not everybody needs to teach AI literacy, but every college and university should teach AI literacy. We've covered that not every teacher needs to integrate AI into their courses, but some should because students
Yeah.
need to be taught how to use it and how to use it, especially in certain disciplines, I think, right? Like accounting should teach students how to use it in accounting. Um, and we've taught how, or we've talked about how AI literacy is really critical thinking, ethical decision making, and let's maybe not make it so complicated that we think it's yet another new thing we have to teach students. It could actually just be incorporated into kind of the more human durable skills we need to teach. So
Mhm.
I feel like that's a summary of what we covered. Is there anything final piece of advice or any final thing that you want to put an exclamation point on before we end?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I want to talk about, from, why students might compromise their academic integrity,
Mm,
but because of the confusion and because of the lack of confidence and the
mm,
fact that AI is more confident than the student and, students using it to prepare for the MCAT or what are some issues with
mm,
that and cultural differences we talked about as well.
mm.
Then there's the issue of shame, when someone uses AI and they like change
Ooh,
their
yeah.
M dashes.
Oh, I see you setting up our second, third, and
I am
fourth
totally
recording.
setting that
Okay,
up.
okay. No problem. We can do
Shame is
that.
another one that's a big one that I think is less talked about.
Mm,
Um, and there's certain buzzwords that people look for and they're like, oh, therefore it's AI generated. I did a whole like chat GPT bingo
yeah,
like 3 months ago where like I
yeah.
the
I
buzzword.
saw Leon Furs just made himself a t-shirt with all the words the New York Times said are telltale signs of AI use.
Right, right. Yeah, no, there for sure. I mean, this has been going on for a long
Yeah.
time. We've been talking about like what was it like what was that word that you put in the ChatGPT bingo thing that I forgot to include?
Oh, yeah.
Delve or something.
Yeah, I love Delve.
So I do want to talk about all of those and like
Yeah.
how this is like a whole nother, like you said,
Yeah. We can do a
talk for
follow-up
another.
episode.
Yeah, yeah, I'm interested in that. But no, last piece here, I would say, if you're faculty listening or student, you could well, faculty would focus on more process-oriented assignments. I think
Yes.
Jason touched on that as well.
Yeah.
And then be transparent about how you use AI so your students
Yes.
can feel confident and responsible in their own use.
Yes. And modeling
Yes,
ethical use. Yeah.
modeling.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So,
Absolutely.
yes. So,
Well, thank you, Tina. We'll definitely have you back on because we have a lot more to talk about, but I think this is a great place to start because it seems like, at the beginning of the school year, AI literacy is going to be the topic that people are thinking about. So I think it's good timing and we'll revisit some of those other topics at a later time. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Thank you, Tricia. Thanks for having me. Great conversation. Thank you. Have a good one.
You
Thank
too.
thank you.